Today, more first-time buyer bribes doesn't help anyone. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to this post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. Well, we know that home prices relative to income are excessive, and we know that the amount of debt in the system is excessive. And we know that there have been lots of people talking about housing affordability as a big issue. But state and federal governments tend to only think about symptoms rather than causes. And of course, it's politically much more correct to encourage people to go buy property, particularly targeting first-time buyers. So we've seen a bunch of first-time buyer schemes over the last few years, which only have the impact of lifting prices even higher. And while it may pull a few people into the markets earlier than otherwise, the fact of the matter is, it solves nothing. In fact, it creates an even bigger problem because it lifts all boats in the harbour. So I wasn't surprised, but I was disappointed when the Tasmanian state government said it would take over from the bank of mum and dad to help young home buyers achieve their dream by owning a place of their own. Premier Peter Gebwin has announced major changes to first government schemes which will save buyers tens of thousands of dollars. The revamped housing market entry program will mean potential purchasers can buy a home with as little as a 2% deposit, and the government will kick in up to $200,000 of the purchase price as an equity contribution. It would mean an eligible applicant wanting to buy a $500,000 home could do so with a deposit as low as $10,000 and a mortgage of $300,000. The government will actually provide people with the opportunity to have the government as an equity partner in the first home, either build or purchase, he said. It's a fantastic way of getting people to be able to take their first step on the property ladder. It's, in effect, like the bank of mum and dad, almost providing people with an increased amount of funding to get into that first home. It will enable people with a small deposit to have a smaller loan to pay and therefore get off the rental roundabout. The scheme, an extension of the existing Home Share Tasmania policy, will commence from 1 July this year. And the government also announced an increase in the threshold for all stamp duty and first home grants to $600,000. The stamp duty savings on a $600,000 property will amount to around $10,000, and those changes will be backdated to the 1st of January. And the $30,000 first home owner grant is now extended for another year to July 2023. And the government also doubled its popular Cash for Granny Flat scheme, formerly known as the Ancillary Dwellings Programme, from 250 to 500 dwellings at a cost of $2.5 million. And land tax cuts worth $220 million announced by the Premier earlier in the week will be in place from July the 1st. The Minister for State Development, Construction and Housing, Michael Ferguson, was at the Hobart Showgrounds on Wednesday to sign off a $42 million redevelopment program. And he said the government wanted to ease the housing affordability crisis, particularly for young buyers. For people who want to aspire to get into their first home, perhaps, in some cases, people who are currently renting will be dropping the deposit requirement down to 2%. Will be increasing the amount that the state government is prepared to co-invest with you as a homeowner to as high as $200,000 or 40% of the cost of that home. What this means is that people who have felt we can't get into the housing market, it's just not affordable to us, we're making it as easy as we possibly can to have the state government actually come in and help you borrow those funds. Mr. Ferguson said the strong growth in housing was a reflection of the state's buoyant economy. Tasmanians do need to see more housing. It's because our state's growing, he said. Gone are the days where young people were fleeing the state and families needing to leave Tasmania to get jobs in other states. In fact, people are staying here, having more confidence to call Tasmania their home, but also returning Tasmanians, people are coming back. So to summarise, the first homeowner's grant of $30,000 towards the purchase or construction of a new home, the first homeowner stamp duty concession with a 50% discount on properties up to $600,000, the ancillary dwelling grant program with grants of $10,000 to build rental accommodation such as granny flats, and housing market entry programs with a 2% deposit and a contribution of up to $200,000 in equity, and the rental incentive scheme where payments to owners are made up to $9,900 per annum to keep rents low, plus plans to help release up to 60,000 additional blocks of land, $220 million in land tax cuts, and doubling the residential land rebate from $15 million to $30 million. Now, all of this may sound laudable, but 3 points. First, as I said at the beginning of your show, if you do all of this, what you do is you push prices higher, making it even harder for people to get into the market. Secondly, the reason why the prices are so high in Tasmania is because lending is so loose and they have been chasing prices higher. So if we were to want to really tackle this, we should actually tighten lending, not loosen it. And third, Tasmania has the unenviable measure of the highest levels of mortgage stress across the country at the moment. And this is simply because prices are way too high relative to incomes, and more people are extending themselves with very large mortgages just to get into the market. And all of this means that these programs, whilst they might sound superficially good and are probably attractive from an election point of view, are nuts when it comes to the underlying affordability issues of property. Unfortunately, though, we're going to see more of this. I expect states around the country and the federal government to continue to throw more money to bribe more people in. And those with shared equity programs, the international experience is actually not very good. So, for example, in the UK, there's been a similar sort of scheme, and quite a few people have discovered that, one, they're paying a high level of interest, that two, when they come to try and sell the property, they don't have enough equity in it to buy something else, and three, the expected capital growth that they were hoping for didn't materialise. And by the way, who's on the hook to that equity share that's actually held by the state? Well, guess what? It's taxpayers. And as I rather jokingly said in my post on Twitter when I saw this the other day, well, we might just as well go and nationalise property completely, because essentially there is more and more taxpayers' money being poured into massive schemes at both a federal and a state level to try and prop the market higher. This is all an attempt to keep the bubble going. And yet, of course, the truth is that this is unsustainable. And when rates rise, as they are going to at some point, people are going to get caught. And of course, such high debt burdens sucks economic activity out of the rest of the economy. So this is a nuts strategy. It really makes very little sense, but I'm not surprised, I'm afraid. I always said, expect more unnatural acts, and we're going to see yet more. Now, if you're buying your home in Sydney's contentious market, you don't need to stand alone. This is the time you need to have Edwin Almeida from Ribbon Property Consultants standing alongside you. Buying a property is both challenging and adversarial. The vendor has a professional on their side. Emotions run high, price discovery and price transparency are hard to find, and then there's the wasted time and financial investments that you make. Edwin understands your needs, so why not engage a licensed professional to stand alongside you? With RPC, you know you have experience, knowledge, and master negotiators looking after your best interests. So shoot Ribbon an email at info@ribbonproperty.com.au, and if you use the promo code DFAWTW/Martin, you can get a 10% discount offer. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.